Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hello, everyone. It's Robyn, Porshea, and our special guest, DJ, embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing chapters 20 through 24.
But before we get into all the joy that is what's happening currently in Amari verse, we got to talk about what happened last time we all were together. Well, we're all gathered to talk Amari, which is that Maria is now arrested under some level of like imprisonment. She's restricted in her movements because Harlow has arrested her during the session that she was sanctioned to do with Amari to teach her magic by the not Prime Minister of Magic, but like the leader of magic for the Bureau, Merlin, because Merlin is in the time freeze. That is not, they're trying to go work around that, say Bane didn't allow her to do it, and they're actually going to blame her for the time freeze and use Amari to do it. Amari actually does it because they threaten to do even worse things to Maria if she doesn't go along with it. And the first scene we ever seen of Director Van Helsing between his Maria, his daughter, and himself is him publicly disowning her in the moment. Because, like, not my daughter. Of course, the Father of the Year award. Let's give it to him, you know? Also, Amari and Elsie make up after Elsie realizes that Amari actually literally cannot tell her anything and is like bound up in a vow of secrecy. And she's like, baby, why'd you go do that? And we're all like, yeah, that's real. Meanwhile, Lara's room has been torn apart by the new pet shade that they have found from a mission. But because Jaden has the ability to speak to beings of any sort and size, all he does is come in and say, hey, what's up? Can we chill? Can we not just bounce around? And the shade is like, oh, my bad. Okay, I thought that was playing. We good. And everyone is like, excuse me. That's all it took. Like, we're good. And then he also names the shade. So that is shadiest thing, kind of also. Amari and Elsie actually also recruit Lara and Jaden into their investigation. And it's hilarious because Jaden was like, oh, so what we gonna do? We're just gonna go break into the Supernatural World Congress and figure this out. And Amari's like, wasn't thinking about that, but now that you say it, sounds like an awesome plan. Thank you for that. We will be doing that now. So they, as soon as they come in, they're already integrating new steps, new plans, new things, and we're on top of that. Elsie also bribes Arthur, who is a Vanquish stan, and she also kind of like slightly blackmails him because she knows information about like his abilities and where he belongs. So like if she did not know that, she would not have any power over him to do what they do, which is use his abilities to get into the Department of Time Management, and allow them to look around and try to learn and investigate more about the time freeze. And Amari finds a very interesting clue right before we start on chapter 22.
Okay. Yeah, so where we start, Amari and Elsie are like trying to use their lunch break to nap, and Amari very relatably is too anxious to sleep. Like Elsie's just like knocked out and she's like, nope, can't sleep. But she's up reading The Responsible Weatherist and discovers that she needs to channel all of her emotions, including fear and anger, to really utilize her weather magic.
When I was reading this part, thinking about the rest of like the next 3 chapters, the things that Amari goes through, but like also her like getting in trouble, the Great Game and all this stuff. She is also has not slept. Like we were talking about this last episode, that like all of the stuff with like Maria getting arrested, and then wait, did she have the Great Game and then Maria got, like, it was all in the same day, right? So this is the next day. She barely slept overnight, woke up early to go to the time room, and now trying to take a nap to get some sleep back, and she still can't sleep.
Yeah.
So poor baby is exhausted. So, yeah. I didn't really think about it until I was like rereading this chapter, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, and she's like, how old is she right now? Is this one 13, right? Like,
13?
which is like a teenager, but not really. Like, just it's so funny. So, like, as a
Yeah.
parent, I'm like, she's still just that's a lot physically.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying this too. Like, I am, even as a full grown adult with my brain solidified and all that stuff, like, I'm no longer developing. I'm degenerating now. But like, if I do not get at least 7 hours of sleep, the day is already a loss. And then if it's like this prolonged, whenever I have like, because I do suffer from like insomnia and stuff, but whenever I have like a few nights of like 1-2 hour sleep, if I go more than like three days without a good 7 hour sleep, like it's scary up in my head. It's dangerous. Like I'm not trying to drive. I'm not trying to like operate machinery. I'm not trying to do nothing until I get some sleep.
You're not trying to control weather.
And again, I'm an adult. You know?
As a long-term sleep resistor, like I was resistant towards naps and stuff as a kid too, because my mom was like, I don't know what you think you're gonna miss out on. And I guess I do technically. Like I don't really have FOMO, but I was like, I just wanted to be aware of what was happening. And that's kind of like stayed with me as an adult until like I hit like in college, I was a big like supporter of naps in between classes because there's no way, like there's no possible way. And then as time has gone on, I'm just like, what was my beef with naps? Like naps are fun. They're great.
I've always been a napper. I've never felt like, I don't know, but it is hilarious and very on brand to hear Porshèa be like, I needed to be aware.
I need to be aware.
She said constant vigilance from
at
the
all
time
times.
she was at all times. As a toddler, was like, I don't think so. Like Naya definitely, like Aminata definitely didn't want to nap because she thought we were throwing a party as soon as she like went to sleep. Like she was it was FOMO, it was for sure, but she thought we were like partying. As soon as she laid down, we were like, let's get all the snacks, all the candy, like let's go.
Ice cream party right now. Yeah.
She had conspiracy theories about what was going on when we got her to nap. Portia's like, because you know what? I'm gonna miss a clue. I'm gonna miss a vital clue. That's gonna help me unlock the mystery of life.
Yes. Oh no.
And or what's happening tomorrow or the day after. Like I must know so I can be prepared.
Oh yeah, so Amari is attempting to nap, is trying to be a responsible youth, and is unable to. So she runs to training after the break. So she hasn't slept. She has to go to training. They're getting ready to practice. Harlow shows up with a whole group of press to use Amari for another photo op, which everything that's about to happen is her fault, right? Is setting her own self up for a trap because she walks into a room full of middle schoolers and expects it to go as planned. Tristan is real jealous about the fact that Amari is getting this photo op and decides to challenge Amari and Laura to a duel with him and Bear in front of all the press reporters, which I just feel like a more skilled educator would have been able to see coming 100 miles away. Harlow is like, I don't know, but then like threatens Amari, is like, you better win. And I'm like, this whole time you've been trying to control this child and not have her do anything, and now all of a sudden it's, you better not embarrass me. Like, what do you want?
And actually would have been cute, like if she actually could have spun that on and acted like she was actually like a good adult. Like, you better work, you better slay, like you better get this together. You got this.
No. All she has is like scary threats. Like, win or else.
That motivates everyone to be threatened. Oh yeah, like I'm gonna do my best performance right now.
It's also super funny too because like you said, everything that's about to happen is her fault. You're the one that has the press here, so you can't even like put your foot down because like Agent Fiona's like, no, this isn't a good idea.
The actual educator is like, let's not.
Yeah, but she's not even an educator. And Amari doesn't really want it to happen.
Like,
but
they're all like all the
That's true.
adults
They're
who
all
are like
just
in the
like,
situation,
yeah,
they're just
that's very
like
true.
they're just experts in their field. They're not
Teaching is not
actual.
their place of expertise.
yeah,
They're just
there's
giving
there's no
children.
pedagogy
Yeah,
going
exactly.
on.
Oh God, it's like Hogwarts.
It really is.
Um,
But I think what's like really funny about it though is that, yeah, like I was saying, so because the press is there, you have this like what? So Tristan's 15, I believe,
yeah, a few
and
years
he's,
older.
Braggadocious
like
a-hole.
puffing his chest out, doing
Mhm.
all this stuff, and it's very much like if the press wasn't in the room, Agent Fiona would be like, "Boy, if you don't sit
Right.
down and shut up and listen to, you know what I mean?" Or like, but
She could.
you can't be too tough or like strict on him because the press is there, right? Definitely already showing you're out like who runs the show because like, you know, he's not listening to his like I don't know what his
Superior, like his
not professors, but like his
yeah.
superiors.
Like he could like get
Um
written up for that. Like that
Yeah.
should
yeah,
be it should warrant something. Like for
But
whenever
it's
you
worth
it
it
don't.
to
like
him, even if he does get written up. Like he knows that he's putting them in this position.
precarious
But I
position,
don't think he
yeah.
even like assumes that there'll be any backlash because he's the best and he's elite and he's whatever. So I don't think he assumes that he'll ever be penalized for anything that he does because he's supposed to be the golden boy and he needs to prove again and again and again that he deserves the spot as golden boy and to be treated with kid gloves. Like he doesn't think he's supposed to. There's not any repercussions to his actions.
Mhm.
You know, it's
And that's also the other thing about like what they do with the kids, right? Of like they don't give them enough information for the like situation that they have them in, right? So like he's like, "Oh, this is all about popularity and antics and like me showing off and all of this." Um when there's like life or death happening around, you know? So I just feel like he is not making these judgments. Not that, you know, whatever. He's a kid and he's immature. I don't know how different it would be for him to know that like, oh, Amari is being like
threatened.
right blackmailed and bribed into do right like, but it's just for him, it's just about who's elite and like who has attention, and he's got no idea of the stakes beyond that.
And
Um,
it's possibly also like his like it's definitely signs of insecurity, but it's only made more intense by the fact that like Amari did win that like young elite award or whatever, and he didn't see that coming because he assumes that no one can be better than him because he's the golden boy and he's like, oh, that's a technicality, but I can't let her get ahead of me again this year. And so he's seeing it as like I'm gonna I'm gonna make sure I get the award this year kind of thing.
Tristan lets them disarm Bear, like doesn't even try to assist. Simply simply leaves him. And then after Bear is disarmed, Tristan gets Laura out with his use of the stun stick because he was able to split Laura and Amari up. They're not able to use the like Van Helsing technique to their advantage. Um,
But also he's like he gets I don't know, again, it's very showy and he is, you know, a kid and just trying to like prove that he is the best. Like he even says like I'm the real superstar and like
yeah,
Amari's just hiding behind her brother or whatever. But like his technique is to spin around because he can fly. So he is also I don't think he's using the sky sprints. He's just
yeah.
flying and that's a supernatural ability. But to like what I'm assuming is like kind of like ballet pirouettes really fast and like shooting his stun stick. And like, granted, the stun stick is not lethal, thank God, but like just indiscriminately shooting. Like, I mean, he's aiming, but the way it's like explained is that he's shooting so fast that they can't do much but like try to
Right.
dodge, right? And I'm thinking if I'm Agent Fiona, I'd be like, what the hell is that? Like, if we were in like a busy, like this is training, right? For like real life. If we're in a busy
Right.
place or whatever. Like, you can't just be
A whole lot of collateral damage.
opening this, like, just spraying the room.
Amari had to get talked into doing it, and it was because Lara and Tristan are like cut from the same cloth of like being competitive.
Yeah.
And Lara's like, oh, this is how we can defend our siblings. It's like, do your siblings need to be defended by you? Like, that's just strange. As a like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also like really again, I know Porshèa, I know, but it's also really sad on like in Lara's brain. It's like, okay, Maria just got arrested and is like, I mean, Harlow was over in the corner talking about, like, in front of the reporters talking about how Amari is like, or Bane is benevolent and keeping Amari here, unlike those dangerous and bad magicians, Maria. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're blaming it all on her. And then Tristan is like throwing her sister and Quentin's like name out, like, and she's 13.
I feel like the answer is like, well, they wasn't that bad when he was all up there in their faces trying to be their new little protege. Now, was it? Like, you wasn't that, like, you wasn't saying all of this whenever you were in their faces. So what's up now?
I mean, she did say that, but then he was like, whatever.
And say whatever back to him. Like, F you. Like, who are you? Well,
but also, again, the press is there. Like, I feel like she would have been more likely to do that if there weren't cameras. And, you know, if it was just in class and he was talking shit, she would have just been like, whatever. Like, I can't. But, and, like, after watching her dad disown Maria the day before, she's kind of like, I need to show them that somebody is still, like, riding with her. Like, somebody in this family is willing to defend her.
But Tristan, though, like Tristan, the kid that like he's giving me strong. Like, who was that villain from Incredibles? The little kid that was looking up to Mr. Incredible.
Oh yeah,
and then he became the villain.
Psycho.
I remember he was like Incrediboy. He was trying to be Incrediboy, but I can't remember what his like villain name was. And that's how forgettable he was as a person. And that's who Tristan is what I'm trying to say as well.
But yeah, no, we didn't talk about that. So thanks for naming that. We did talk about though how he just kind of let them take out Bear, like didn't even attempt to help him. He was just like,
he's like, Bear is the distraction. Yeah. I just need like them to be distracted for a minute as I set up my maneuvers.
It's like, as Bear, I'm like, how are you feeling about this after the fact? But anyway,
who cares?
Yeah,
no one cares how Bear feels. Like, no one cares. No one cares about Bear.
I think he's totally resigned to his future as henchman, lackey.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Sidekick. He's just
so
like,
young
let me find
to
the
be resigned to that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's, I don't know. That's the one thing about the supernatural investigations world, is it's just like, this is your life as we're defining it from 13 years old. It's like, Bear, stand up.
It's also like, when you say it like that, it's so sad because, like, I think at 13 I wanted to be I don't think I wanted to be a hobo anymore. I know for a while I wanted to be a hobo, but I think I wanted to be like athletic trainer at that point, or like something in sports.
I feel like at that age, a lot of kids, even the kids that like aren't, you know, super popular or whatever, like they're at least holding on to the like, someday I will not be in this school with you all, right? Like, someday I'm gonna be like in a different place. I don't know what that means. I don't know, like, whatever, but like, I'm not gonna be at the bottom forever. I think that's what like a lot of kids at that age hold on to, and for him to just have accepted that, like, no, this is my place for the rest of my life at 13 is like crazy. That's very sad.
I feel like a lot of kids do that in middle school, though, to be honest. I feel like a lot of kids are like, I'm not going to be the it girl or it boy or whatever, but I can be proximity to them. I can be I can be in their circle. And that is proof enough to me that I'm doing what I need to do because I'm
for
in the circle.
Context of school.
I'm not like one of those.
But outcasts. I just mean like in terms of thinking about their life. Like, they're like, after, you know, whatever, maybe they're not thinking about college, whatever, but like when I'm 18, right? Like, I'm not going to have to deal with this, and this. But because the supernatural world is so tiny and they're already laying out their lives
Yeah.
for them. Like he can't be like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna have to deal with Tristan when I'm 18. Like, no.
He's like already setting himself up to be under Tristan. He's like, Tristan is going somewhere. I have an in with him as long as I just do whatever he says I do. And then by the time Tristan is like director or whatever, I'll be his like main guy. Like I already got, and it's like that, but it's also like their social circle of it all, because where Tristan sits in this like the social part of it, like being an elite, like Bear's not an elite.
Yeah.
Like the closest he can get is to be in proximity to Tristan, who is like the one who is like allowing him to be awful with each other, right? Like Amari's an elite, but he's not trying to be friends with her because he's being like discriminatory towards her. Elsie is close to Amari. That could be his in within an elite right there. Also, he's being awful to Elsie, and even though Elsie's been nothing but nice to him. So
it
it's just
makes me wonder,
he
like,
he
What's
wants
really
to
funny
be
too is like you think
where the
about
shiny part is.
how often do
you think
they
about like going to school or going to camp, like summer camp. I didn't go to summer camp often. I went to like church camp, which was like a week.
Same.
And not, I mean, I went to vacation Bible school too, but I went to like a white,
like day camp. Oh
no, like
I
a
was like
overnight like church camp, like with white folks. But I always remember being like, oh, we're gonna meet all new people. Like anything that happened in like school
right.
doesn't count. Like the church camp that I went to, even that like youth group that I was a part of, I didn't go to school every day with most of those
Right.
kids because I grew up like on the border of a school district, so I went to a different school as like all of my friends from like sports and like where I was like, you know, you sign up for like Pop Warner or whatever, junior sports. I was in one section of all the kids that went to this other thing, but then because I lived on the opposite side of the street, I went to a different school. It's very strange. But anyway, I do remember though being like, oh, summer camp is like a fresh, clean slate. So whereas Bear, I mean, maybe it's like the opposite. And so at school with Amari and Elsie, like he is like a big popular kid or whatever. And so, but he knows that he treats them like crap at school. So it's not like they're going to turn around and be nice to him at camp.
Is he popular though? Like, is he not just in his, again,
we don't know, but I'm just,
who's just like, but like from the bus situation, it sounds like he was just like, it wasn't like other kids were like crowding to hang out with Bear. Like he was just there.
Yeah. Because I mean, because he also seems like someone who like looks down on like the folks that aren't like in magical. Like magical,
aren't like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just makes me wonder, like, you know, like Elsie is probably going to be going to London, whatever. Like, I'm curious how often kids do that, you know, like how often do they move around in this world? How often do they get to sort of like just see themselves outside of the bubble of people that they're with? Because if it's just like, I'm going to be stuck with these 50 people in this ranking for all of my adulthood, that is a very weird way to develop one's adolescence. So
it seems like a very good way to kill ambition,
right? And it just
because
also so
just
early.
Yeah.
So we got off on a whole Bear tangent.
I was gonna say that I think that kids being able to move around is like how it is in the real world. It's like based on privilege, like actually, like because like how we see the Van Helsings, like they're able to go travel to different magical places and cities or whatever, but that's all because of privilege. Elsie's able to do what she can because her mom has a lot of like power to an extent, and also money is whatever. So it's privilege based. It sounds like. There's also some other kids in book 1 that were rich, and we heard them like, oh, I just went to Saint-Tropez and all this crap or whatever. Like it's privilege based for the most part. And it doesn't sound like Bear is one of those privileged kids. He's just doing his best to like be in proximity.
I mean, he kind of is. I think his dad is probably also like
even in terms of
like
he's in the know, right? Like is there like a, you know, like, oh, whatever, I'm struggling to remember all the different types of jobs, but like Jaden's job, right? The creatures, like I'm sure he could go to different places to like study for that work, right? Because there's going to be different creatures in different parts of the world or whatever. Like I wonder if there's just certain roles that programs that allow you know, more of that kind of like you're not stuck with the same group of people because you're in a role that allows you to explore
Yeah.
and see different things. Um,
But again, it's also too, like we talked about, like Van Helsing has set up supernatural investigations to have this kind of cutthroat, like there can only be one
yeah.
type of culture in a way that, like, because we saw with like the Department of Good Omens and Bad Premonitions or whatever, like, you know, their director's like, wear the thing that makes you feel most happy and like
Yeah.
change your name every day. That's fine by me. So like they're just a little bit less competitive and judgmental. So I think it depends.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, you know, Amari does her best to charge at Tristan and to like go down with a fight. She's like, I'm not just gonna like sit here and cry. I'm gonna try, but he is able to get one of her sky sprints off. And in trying to like dodge his stun stick, she ends up upside down, hanging from one leg. Everyone is starting to laugh, and she's super embarrassed about that. And that emotion starts to be channeled in a way that she can't control. She creates a storm that she cannot stop. Harlow claims that Amari did this purposely to try to embarrass her and says that Bane is going to come in to figure out what Amari's punishment will be.
So I
I also love
already
that
know.
Harlow is such a narcissist that it's like, it's all about me.
Yeah.
You did this about me. This was me. You did this to me. Your ability to make magic is all because you wanted to show me up. Like she's just like Tristan in Mind Frame. Like it's about me. That like it's just like,
I mean,
what is going on in her brain?
Tristan literally
How does
says
that
like,
work?
you'll do anything to like get the spotlight. It's like she's sitting there hanging.
That's you.
That's
That's
you.
your
The reason why I'm sitting here hanging from one leg, crying and starting a storm is because you insisted on
Right.
trying to show me up, and now I can't control my emotions, and the lightning, everyone has to evacuate from this lightning that I can't stop. Like, and I already know what you're gonna say, Porshea. I understand. I know that it's the system and they don't want you. But once again, we see them not knowing anything about magicians and not letting Amari learn anything about her power turns into she does something dangerous that she can't control.
Mm-hmm.
But that also plays into their narrative of trying to say that she's dangerous. So it's a win-win for them.
Right. But
As long as it doesn't, as long as she doesn't kill anybody that they care about, it's a win-win for them.
But it's also like she's literally saying, I can't stop this. I don't know what's happening. And like we said, like Harlow is so in her own wrapped up that's like, no, you're doing this on purpose to embarrass me. Like, no.
It's just it's like Amari doesn't even know you, bruh. Like you, you did not come in here with this antagonistic energy towards this child. What reason would she have to like even care about you or not, you know? So like you're probably not wrong that she has poor feelings towards you, but you are the cause of that. And even so, I don't know. It's just so funny. It's just like the adult that's like telling on themselves, right? Like
Yeah.
it just like this is a battle
It
between middle school, high school children, and you're like, it's about me. Like, no.
and it's also like you have stressed this poor baby out so much that she just basically had a panic attack, and it manifested in a storm that she can't control. And like, I don't know, like there's not, and she's just been stressed and she walked in this, like, why did you have to walk in the middle of her training? You couldn't have brought the reporters outside the room when they file out. Like, why? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you said at the beginning of this, she is the reason. She is the cause of all of this. I just need people to be self-aware. And I know that Carla's entire job is to spin a narrative and that her supernatural power is to get people to believe the narrative and do what she wants and feel what she wants him to feel. But I feel like she's let that power take away her ability to be self-aware.
I don't think she ever was
I need you to know when you're spinning the story. I need you to know when and what the lie is.
It sounds to me like when we'll get deeper into her story once we get the reveal at the end of the book. It doesn't sound like she ever built out being self-aware. It sounds like she's always been narcissistic. And the song that came to mind was like the Maya song, like it's all about me, 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 me. Forget about you. Like I'm like, oh yeah, that's Harlow's like whole, like it's all about her. And then the second note was that I felt like we were about to see Harlow try to use her ability on Amari because specifically pulls Amari out, and then there's a big chunk of time between Bane popping up on screen and also Chief Crow being able to join them. So she's using the time that she has alone with Amari to start, like, she's like, yeah, she's berating Amari, but she's also like saying stuff to her, and then but Amari is distracted by the ring, so she doesn't actually start listening to her. She's not paying full attention to Harlow, and I think that's the only way that Harlow's ability works, is if you're paying full attention to her. And when Harlow barked, "Are you listening?" Amari blinks, and then she says, yes, sorry. And then she says, say, good. She says that way. Now then, as I was saying, and then her cell phone rings. But I think what she was saying was something to like she was telling Amari, she's trying to tell Amari to do something, especially around like how she needed to act going forward. And I think that got disrupted because of the great game and because Harlow's cell phone rang.
Ooh.
Makes sense.
Interesting.
At New Balance, we believe if you run, you're a runner, however you choose to do it. Because when you're not worried about doing things the right way, you're free to discover your way. And that's what running's all about. Run your way at newbalance.com/running.
Love B&C content? Want to see the tricks behind the treats? Every month we drop behind the scenes and bonus content on our Patreon. Baddies at any tier get access to notes, process videos, and podcast outtakes. Support us on Patreon at any tier by going to patreon.com/blacknerdscreate.
Here on Wizard Team, it's no surprise that we love books. We also love supporting the independent bookstores.
With our bookshop affiliate link, you can not only get all the books on your TBR, but you can support indie bookstores and B&C at the same time.
And if you're not sure what you want, that ain't no problem. Check out our The Plot Thickens list full of recommendations from none other than Porshèa herself.
Head to www.bookshop.org/shop/blacknerdscreate to treat your shelves.
Treat your shelves!
Oh, that's nice. That's clever.
Oh my goodness.
That's clever.
So chapter 23 starts with Amari's ring telling her it's time for the second challenge in the Great Game. And I'm like, does Cosmo have, like, I mean, obviously he has spies everywhere, but like, does he have someone that says now would be the most inconvenient time? Let's do the challenge now. Like, maybe he's got, like, remember how, sorry to bring up that wizard boy, but what's her face, Rita, could turn into, like, a bat or something, or
a beetle.
fly, and then so that she was a beetle. Thank you. So she was, like, just, I don't know,
But it was small,
Yes,
so it had to be
yes, a
small.
beetle.
Yeah.
Yes, a beetle. I knew it started with a B. And I feel like he has, Cosmo has like a beetle or a little fly thing following Amari around,
Choosing
and
the
then he's
worst
like,
time.
okay. Now, also, I mean, again, we know that Cosmo wants Dylan to win, but also he wants to be like a proxy power. He thinks that he can control these children.
He thinks he can be a regent, like, you know, like how they have a regent for like child, like royalty or what. Yeah.
Like Lord Davis. Yeah, it just like, it also feels like, you're so confident that Dylan will win. Why would you need to
everything? You have to do everything to his advantage. That's how Dylan was raised, is to have everything at his advantage. So to put him at best advantage, like he's been taught to be his whole life, then you do that. You make sure you can play him up to him being at his best advantage.
I mean, okay, because first off, can we just mention the fact I read this and I cackled. So she squeezes the ring. She ends up in like the living library of Alexandria. It was set up by Alexander the Great. Dylan explains that like Alexander the Great was like one of the best magicians and one of the earliest magicians. Though only like his closest generals knew that he had magic. And I'm assuming Alexander the Great is like before the Night Brothers, because time. I know it was like an ancient war, but like when was Alexander the Great? Like the 6th century? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know history.
I'm laughing.
I don't know. But isn't he before Jesus? No? No? I don't know.
Keep moving. Keep it moving. We'll get there.
Well, okay, but
actually, yeah,
he is before the
definitely.
Night Brothers, right? No, yeah, okay, all right. Ancient ass man. But Dylan shows up in a cape, and we're not. No one. It just is. We don't spend any time on it. But like, sir, boy.
I think it's also helpful because it's like it's on him on the cover, so it's like, of course he's wearing a cape. Like, sure, he's wearing a cape. Yeah,
a red cape.
He's a cape crusader.
See, I was right. DJ, thank you, DJ. Alexander the Great was before Jesus. I don't even think there were pyramids when that man was doing what he was doing. He was like with the Romans.
The Egyptians
are
an older race. Like they're not new.
No, I'm saying
Alexander and all his stuff, like all his crypts and stuff, that's within the existence of like Egyptian era. Like the things
right? Yeah, that's what
I'm not saying he predates Egyptians. I'm saying he predates like the building of the pyramids.
It's around the same time.
Okay.
You weren't. We know that you were not paying attention to all your classes because you had other thoughts going on at the time. But like, this is hilarious given your science breakouts that you do and how Kashana gets onto us about that, and now you're doing a history, so it's hilarious.
I actually really did love history, but I just really hated that I was expected to remember the dates. I'm like, I can remember the stories. I don't know when that shit happened or the dates of it, but like the stories are wonderful. I love the stories of history. I just don't know when it all falls into line. Anyway, so the boy is wearing a cape, and just we don't comment on the fact that he is just in his villain.
But it's a red cape. That's like a hero color, technically.
Well, he thinks he's a hero.
He's a cape crusader. That's what I'm saying. You're saying he's his villain era, but he doesn't see it as a villain era.
No, he's Syndrome. Like you just talked about Incrediboy.
But Syndrome knew he was being a villain by the time he was Syndrome. He's like Dylan is in his Incrediboy era. He's not in his Syndrome era yet.
Okay, I'm gonna start using that as an insult for people.
Incrediboy era.
Sounds like you're Incrediboy.
This is why though he's in his villain era. And I'm sorry if I tangent right now, but like I don't care if he thinks he's Incrediboy. This is why he is in his villain era. Dylan explains that this is like a great ancient library. It's like Amari is in awe before she even finds Dylan. It's like the shelves or columns are the size of like cities. There's blocks of books. And so how does Dylan decide to attack Amari? Not with the shadow that we now know that he can control later in this chapter, with flames, balls of fire. He starts throwing
on the sides of the bookshelf.
He starts throwing fireballs in a precious, secret, ancient library of living books that are sentient and one of a kind. He loves his magic. He loves magic most foul. He reads all this whatever. He loves the history of magicians and all that bullshit. And the first thing he chooses to do is throw fireballs in a library.
Understand why you feel books are precious, and understand why this boy would not care that if books are precious or not.
I don't
He already
understand.
thinks that he knows everything there is to know.
He gets things. He not even that, he can get whatever he wants whenever he wants it. So if this Alexandrian library is gone, okay, sure, whatever. Like if I need something from wherever, it'll come to me. I don't have to worry about maintaining or preserving history. I can make history. I can find things that I want, even whatever they are. I like this means nothing in the grander scheme of things. Nobody even knows that it exists. No, but everybody thinks that it's already gone. So what does it matter if he burns down shelves of like these like historical, very like priceless materials? It's whatever. He's priceless because he's got all he's ever wanted in his life. Besides those Vanquish shoes that he had to try to figure out, on that was his one time he had to really try hard to get something,
If you say so. Amari starts to run away from the fireballs, and the books, which are, some of them are getting hit, some of them are like bursting into flames. She runs into another like section of the library, and he's chasing her with fireballs. And the books decided to defend themselves by attacking not only Dylan, but Amari as well. They're just like, okay, these two intruders have come into the library, and now there is flame.
I would feel betrayed. I'd be like, excuse me, books, hold on. I don't have any fireballs.
They don't have time to ask
Let's stop
questions.
this. Let's stop
They
this
just
madness. Let's stop the madness. I am your friend. I am here to help you. How dare.
She does try to help a few books. She throws up like wind. She does see one book and she takes off her coat or something and like beats out the flame and saves it. All while, still running away from the flames. She picks up a book while she's hiding from Dylan, and Dylan's like, "You can't hide from me." She is throwing Amari illusions in other places, and Dylan is both throwing fireballs and also doing dispel to like stop her illusions and making sure that she can't like go invisible or something like that. So
I'm just mad that the books, like, because before she decides to do the Amari illusion because the books are attacking her, like they're like dumping themselves on her like a whole shelf full at a time, and I'm like, where's that energy for Dylan? Like, I get that he has fireballs, but y'all gotta figure, can y'all trip him?
They're
like,
also attacking Dylan, but Dylan is like literally bursting the books into flames.
I need for Dylan to get knocked by a book because they're like, I just like that the books have the defensive abilities. I love seeing books being able to like take care of themselves, and I just want them to be able to knock them out for their own like vendetta.
Of that scene in between these wicked walls. Behind. We just read that book.
Behind.
I
believe.
Anyway, within these wicked walls, where the books start attacking her, except Amari is innocent in this. So Amari picks up this book, and it says "Fireworks from the Far East," and she makes a deal with the book to help her. And I love,
very smart.
There are things about Amari that are always frustrating. We're going to see it in a few pages. But I do love how she's just so like kind to everything. So like, not only is it smart to make a deal with this book, but the way in which she like explains or like talks to this book, she's like, I need to get into the next room, but also if you help me, the dude throwing fireballs is going to follow me into that room, and that will keep you and all the rest of the book safe. Do we have a deal? And so she's also like, not just like, can you get me into the next room and like keep old boy busy, but she's like, I'm looking out for like you and your books as well, because I also don't want to see these wonderful and precious books destroyed. She's so sweet. I love it. I do wish, and I almost benched Amari. I'm not gonna lie. It was I have a lot of reasons why she should have been benched, and I will go through them as we go through this. This is one. I mean, they already had this whole thing, and Dylan was like, you need to be more selfish or whatever, being selfish and foul magic or whatever. Or does that happen later? I don't know. Anyway, she's just not selfish enough. And she should have been like, help me get into this room and take that mofo out. Hurt him. But she didn't. So the firework book slides it across the floor. It opens up and fireworks start bursting off everywhere, distracting a lot of the books, but also distracting Dylan. She runs into this new chamber and gets away from the books that are attacking her. Dylan follows, and I don't know if they close themselves in or whatever, but they're in this new room, and the room says, on the floor of the room,
It's etched into the door.
It's etched into the door. It says the strongest, or it says book handling gloves is etched across like all of these on the wall. And then she sees a bowl with liquid in it that she's like, that's dangerous. But inside, at the bottom of the bowl, is the victor's ring. And so they realize that like they need to choose gloves that will help them get to the ring to put it on. So whoever chooses the right pair of gloves can get the ring and put it on. So Dylan chooses a pair of diamond gloves.
Diamonds
and
that also sounds like a Michael Jackson costume, like piece, like diamond encrusted gloves.
Yeah. So I guess Dylan says, like, after his generals asked him who should inherit his empire, Alexander's last words were the strongest, spoken like a true foul magician. And so he puts on these diamond gloves. Thick smoke rises from the bowl as soon as he makes contact with it, and he's like, ouch, and he snatches off the gloves. It doesn't make sense. It's stronger than diamond. And that, like, pings at Amari's head, and so she understands what to do. So she grabs a pair of linen gloves, and then Dylan's like, you think that's the right choice? And she's like, yep. And she points to a mural of Alexander wearing using linen for armor, and says like he trusted that for his armor. It's got to be what he trusted most. And then Dylan's like, very clever, but do you really think I'm just going to let you?
I just wanted to catch that Amari was like thinking about Alexander the Great this whole time, like that she's in like considering the gloves in the room, and she is using like facts from her history class about how he fought at the head of his men, but in folded linen. She knew which material was being used and depicted in the mural because of her history class. And I was like, this is definitely a merit of Amari's private school education, because my Alexander the Great did not go that in depth into what kind of material this man was wearing as he was out in these streets. As long as and then I wanted to give a caveat. Perhaps it did, but I am now my big age. I don't remember what I was learning, whatever, like what the actual little details were, but I'm pretty sure that is all like at the like behest of having a private school kind of like upbringing or like whatever that's used in the private school system, because who is going in that much detail in history class about the materials that are used as these people are marching on different countries? Like I think there's like that's a level of like crafting of like a historian would know and would be able to tell you, but most history teachers aren't like given that level of like provision to just like bring that information to class. They're supposed to teach to a unit, and that usually is not included in like the classroom units that you get in public school.
I mean, I couldn't even remember when Alexander the Great was, so, you know. But also big age, and I can't remember school.
Public school education.
So.
both and. So I'm just saying I know that it's the author, like B. Alston, probably like this is on him having like looked this up or whatever and like just like having a knowledge on it. But it also like it makes sense in the context of Amari going to a private school where this is definitely feasible that they got this much into the unit for that.
But
class.
Also Alexander the Great is like European history or world history. When did you start doing world history? Not at
World
13.
history, like high school.
That's what I'm
this
saying.
It was like 14,
I mean,
15.
this is like ancient civilizations, which happens in middle school for a lot of kids.
Oh, okay.
Really.
Well, they do give that. Yeah, they do give that early, but like but at the same time, you're not going like that. You're not looking at the materials.
I mean, that depends on the teacher, I guess, and what they're like. I think with history, it just depends on what your teacher is particularly geeked about. Like each history teacher has.
And I feel like it's a private school
period.
teacher is gonna have that like level of like ability to like
I
just
mean,
be like going in. You know what I mean? Like I feel like public school
like
teachers just don't like they could,
even
but it's
in
not like as like
a general public school. I think it just like your teacher has the one like era of history or like the one type, that's just, and it's like we ain't learned nothing else this year, but we learned this because this is what the teacher I had happened to be geeked about. So if that is armor, then perhaps the linen comes into play.
I guess so. But this is like also very reminiscent of the final tryout in Amari and the Knight Brothers. So Dylan's like, I know you don't think I'm gonna just let you grab this ring. And so she throws the linen glove and Dylan towards the door. And so then Dylan goes to get it. And while doing that, she grabs the ring with her bare hands. And this is another moment in which
just put it on.
I really considered benching Amari. Put the ring on while your finger's in the bowl.
I'm like, why not just? That's what I was like. Why not just slide your finger into it as you're picking it up? Like just like slide it on. Just slide it on. So as soon as you come out of the basin, it's already won. It's already decided.
This man has already threatened. I mean, he's been throwing fireballs at you for the last like.
You just had to throw a linen glove so he wouldn't snatch it out of your hand.
Already threatening to kill you.
Are you serious? He just tried to snatch a linen glove out your hand. Just now. Not even like 5 minutes ago. Like just now.
Quick. And it bothers me. She's very smart. Like I can't say that she's not smart. She's very smart. But she's not.
She trusts people too much.
Quick.
She got too much trust for people.
Yeah.
She got too much trust for people.
She's not.
There needs to be more.
Or just for like the rules, right? Like in her mind, I got it, and that's the end of it. And it's like, no, we are fighting to the death.
But it's also a trust in people. It's also a trust in people. I'm like, this sounds sad and mean to say, but she don't distrust enough people from you.
No,
like she needs to be more distrustful.
She's got to be more cynical about like the human condition in general. She wants everyone to believe the best in her, so she believes the best in them. But like, girl,
and I do think
he's already tried to kill you once.
She has been told, right, that like there are certain rules that can't be broken, right? So she's been told like this has to happen this way, this has to happen this way, whatever. And so she's thinking about the great game as this thing that exists within very specific boundaries.
You can steal their magic, so the boundaries.
But also, she should know by now that those boundaries don't really extend to the gameplay. Like extend to what is happening when y'all are there in the room together. Like the rules that can't be moved are the rules about like entering, not entering, talking about it, whatever happens on the field is.
I mean, Cosmo said at any time you can steal each other's magic.
Yeah,
which is death,
right?
Apparently, I still quibble with it, but apparently, and not only that, but like is scared of Dylan. I needed her thought process to be put the ring on and go.
But you still didn't say what happened. We just started yelling at Amari.
Oh, sorry. We just started yelling at her. So she grabs the ring, so she throws the linen glove and grabs the ring with her bare hand. And then she explains that Alexander would have valued courage over anything, but she's explaining this while holding the ring and not having it on her finger.
As if like he possibly knew that making her explain something would have her distracted enough to trust him. You know what I'm like? It's like, what are you doing? Like He's playing you.
Or not
She wanted her
explaining it while
turn
you're
at
putting it
like
on.
villain-splaining, right? Not that she's a villain, but like he has
Yeah.
been moving the whole time, like, oh, I know everything and I'm so smart and blah 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 blah. And it's like she wanted her moment of like
Sticking it to
aha.
him. But it's like, girl,
Yeah.
you stick it to him by having the ring on your finger. And you're like, and while I'm here, let me tell you how I got here. Boom.
Best revenge is
Yes.
your paper. And or the ring on your finger as you squeeze
If you
that
like
bitch
it, then you
and
better
go.
put the ring on it. If you like to win the great game, then you put the ring on it, Amari. What's the problem? You know how to win. You know
Yeah.
how to win. It's not like you didn't get to, like, last time the wind effed you up and you didn't get to the ring. This time the ring is literally in your hands. Like, why is it in your hands when it needs to be on your finger? That's the question. That's the question.
The only one that needs an answer. The only one. So then these shadows come and grab her, holding her still. She can't actually move to put the ring on now. Now she's like spread out like, it plucks the ring out of her hand, not off her finger, out of her hand, and carries it back to Dylan. He says he never planned on stealing her magic back when they first went head to head. But she sent him to the sightless depths, not the consequences of his own actions.
Not
she
the freaking legal
personally,
authorities who actually were able to take him
not
and
the
escort him
Bureau.
to the sightless depths.
What Amari did was lock him into a cage of lightning.
That's what
Amari did. What happened
That ain't on
afterwards,
her.
she wasn't even there. That's not on her. But he's blaming everything on Amari.
Because it's nice, it's convenient to have a scapegoat whenever that's supposed to be your main opponent in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So while he was in the sightless depths, which he's like, you will never know the terrors of this place, he found another one of Moreau's apprentices who seemed to be surviving. I'm not going to say thriving, but surviving. And he finds out it's because she has powers to control shadows. So he has murdered someone else and stolen their magic and says that, like, I'm not going to try to steal your magic because the last time I tried, it lashed out at me. But what I will do is leave you here and I'll come back and visit your bones. Which is like
an insane thing for a 13-year-old child to be saying,
13!
Right? Like,
I keep being like, okay, can we, I keep saying, like, maybe Dylan's gonna be redeemed. You know, he's 13, but he has now killed at least 2
You and
people.
Amari are too trusting of the situation.
And,
I just need you to.
And he is our proof that incarceration.
I was gonna say
work,
this is very much a discussion on like juvenile incarceration and how like being around other offenders will make you like a worse offender most of the time because of how that whole socialization process works. And like Dylan was put in basically solitary confinement.
It's like terrifying.
It's terrifying. I want to like defend myself a little bit. I'm not like Amari and has too much trust in Dylan. I don't have any trust in Dylan. I just have this thought process about like how things will go in BB Alston and tropes and middle grade and like the fact that he's a child. And so, you know, after this, I don't see how we redeem him. But at the end of this book, he starts to possibly, that seems like the path we're on. If he does one knife, he doesn't kill another person.
He's a murderer, but he's not a serial murderer right now.
He is a serial murderer. He married Moreau, and now this other Moreau's apprentice. Who knows who else he's murdered to get
the Moreau one was like
he has definite decisions that he makes in part of his process of murdering people as a serial killer.
Yeah. It's not indiscriminate murder, I think is like the serial. I mean, serial killers have
they have their own it's a serial killer. It's just they have their own standards.
But it's not like he's not like just like a random
I
don't know. I'm not trying to justify.
He's not a spree killer is what you're trying to say. He's not like
he's not a spree killer. Thank you.
Think Criminal Minds, TM.
They have to it has to benefit him in some way that makes sense of his own morality, if he has that, or his own code or whatever. But to say I'm going to come back and visit your bones is terrifying.
Yeah.
I also want to note that the homeboy, before he said he couldn't take Amari's magic last year, was also saying that he was like putting her to the test. Like the way that he was like treating her last year was him putting her to the test as if he was in a place where he was above her and was like able to test her. And I'm like, my good sir. No,
Yeah.
that is not. Yeah, I love that you're trying to paint this narrative, you and Harlow, on the same kind of vibe. But like, you are very full of it because you just took advantage of Amari like being distracted enough to like and to not be ruthless like you are and put the ring on. And so because of that, that's how you took it. You're not testing her, you're taking advantage of her at every turn. This is not you being like, oh, it's for your benefit that I like test you at these different times. No, you are taking advantage of someone that you know doesn't think as ruthlessly as you do. And
Yeah.
it's like, again, he thinks that he's morally on like on a plane of like, well, you just don't get it. But it's like, no, you really are not the person that you think you are.
And he says something to her to the effect of like, I didn't want to steal your magic. I wanted us to share magic, basically, or share strength. As if we talked about how he liked the idea of Amari, but he never really got to know or respect like her, and who, because he should have known pretty quickly that that's not something that she would have been interested in, and like having power over other people was never her goal, even when like the moments presented themselves, and the one time she did use foul magic, she felt terrible about it, even though I still to this day I'm like, justified, and I do it again. Like, you know, but she came away from that being like, how do I never do that again? I feel like we are going to get to the point where like at the end of the series, I don't know if Dylan will be, I don't know how he'll be redeemed or if he will even be redeemed, but it feels like
it would take a lot at this point.
It would take it would take a lot, but it felt, I don't know, I'm just like, and again, like I only read this like once before we started covering it for Wither Team. But I got the sense that like the third book would just be saving Dylan from himself, kind of. But like now I'm like, in one page, you basically said, I killed this lady, I'm stronger than ever, and I'm going to keep you here, trapped in these shadows, and I'll come back when you've starved to death. Like, at least kill him. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, you're just gonna let me rot here.
It's like, how is he okay with like, from like how his journey ends up at the end of the book? How does he go from being like totally fine with like a rotting corpse Amari, at the same time he's in a like, oh, like I got your back sometimes? Like what, like, you know what I mean? Like how, like, it's, I think that's what plays, I think that's what it's kind of playing with the thought process, where I could see you being like, oh, like maybe he's a redeemable character. But I feel like it's also, again, that's a question, right? Of like, offenders being redeemable, even if it goes to murder.
Yeah.
Like, who can judge where human redemption begins and ends, basically? And I don't know, because I feel like I feel like a good line to draw is murder. Even though there's like justifiable like self-defense crap or whatever that happens, but I don't think that's part of Dylan's story at all, that like things happened to him because it was just self-defense.
I mean, I think
I think
like the stealing of the lady's power in jail isn't self-defense in like she was attacking him, but it is for him a way of defending
In the
himself
future.
in
Yeah.
that place, right? No, like it, like, you know, it is a way of like surviving the environment that they've put this child in. It is completely inappropriate, and also ineffective, right? Because the fact that Cosmo is able to just break him out, like that's what really gets me about this whole magical world. It's like y'all are only rocking like this because these magicians are willing to let you. Like none of your systems are actually strong enough
magician proof.
But you also Also, like, you're not even playing the long game.
And also
it's
because
like,
they
you're not
can't
even
work
playing the long
together.
game because you're not like you're so scared of magicians that you're too afraid to actually work with them to figure out how to work against them. Like that's how afraid you are. You will allow them to,
Because
you
the
will allow you
smartest,
won't even like you will allow there to be like holes in your security for magicians because
right,
you refuse to simply build enough alliance. You could even fake the you could fake it. You could fake the funk the whole time. Just take Amari under your arm, get to know as much as you can out
right.
of her, just use it to your advantage, and then be like, F you, haha, we're using it all against you in the end anyway. They won't even do that.
We're now gonna put you in the sightless depths that we
Now
have
made it
like
completely secure from any form of magician.
secure
Yeah,
against
they're
your
like
magic.
none. They don't even do that.
But then didn't think to not let the two magicians in there interact. Like it's just like I don't know. It's all foolishness. But yeah, I think the murder.
China joined the chat and says that that's a long redemption arc for Dylan, and I don't.
It is a long redemption arc, but I do think that they put
He don't deserve it. I'm sorry,
a
he don't.
child whose brain was not fully developed, but is like hyped up on power in a situation where he felt like his survival required the murder of another person. Um, like if there was even a little bit more of a reasonable detainment situation, maybe he would have gotten to the point where he stole her magic, but I feel like he would have at least like tried to like learn more. I don't know. I think that he could have played it differently if he wasn't feeling so desperate, but the desperation comes through really clearly here. And
Yeah,
he's only been out for what, a few days at this point. When did the great game start?
Yeah, yeah, it's been about
like
it's been a few
two
days.
days, maybe at the most, maybe
It
3.
may be part
I think
it
that's
may be
part of
half a
why we
week,
see the difference
half a week at
here and
most.
then the next challenge and then the final one too, is because like literally this just come outside. Like it's just so much as Amari has like exhausted and overwhelmed and whatever, like he is going through his own stuff, and Cosmo being there is not helping.
I'm also questioning how much like Cosmo like this is me being very looking for like the machinations of other people and how like again this is like because Dylan is using Amari. I think there's a level of like using that's happening throughout this book, like how
Mm,
Harlow uses Amari and actually using like I feel like that's a big theme for the people who are being manipulative and all that. So I feel like the main thing to me is that like did Cosmo like alert Dylan to the fact that there was a magician in the like sightless depths that
interesting.
had an ability to like make them like impervious to the shadows to an extent, and then put it in his head like it was like a challenge, like he said, like he set forth to see if Dylan was worthy of being the person that he put forward in the great game, because he's like, if Dylan is like ruthless enough to take out another magician for his own survival, because not Moreau, not this
Hmm.
whole like over like trying to like inherit thing, but literally because like for his, because I can make him think that the only way he can survive something is by what I tell him to do, then I can use that to my benefit. I can be a regent through him because he will listen to me, because I can manipulate. I will know now how to manipulate him. I don't know how to manipulate Amari, and I don't feel like I want this war to happen now. I don't feel like taking the time it would take to try to figure out how to manipulate her. So I'm going to see if Dylan passes my test. So at the same time, he's like not telling Amari stuff.
Hmm.
He's also putting Dylan through challenges to see if he can manipulate Dylan. So I wouldn't put it past Cosmo to have set that whole thing up for Dylan to see if he passed or failed, quote unquote, taking out someone else
Ooh,
while he was
this is
imprisoned.
too much. Ooh, boy, all the machinations are too much. Kashana agrees about like having Dylan having this like recalibration period, and then I was also thinking about the fact that like when he takes Moreau's magic and kills a Moreau, kind of his thought process there is that Moreau wants to not only continue to be like the guy, and so Dylan will be underneath him, but like he wanted to take Amari's
Hmm.
magic, and so Dylan has this kind of like they talk about like the affinity that the two born magicians of an age have towards each other. So it could have also, maybe we justify it as self-defense in terms of like defending Amari as defending
I think that's why
himself.
he's so mad at her when she imprisons him, because
Yeah.
he's like, I stopped Moreau from like stealing your magic, and then you got me sent to the sightless depths, and it's like what thing happened in between there?
This is that not also the Is that not also the logic of kids who get like a
Exactly.
failing grade in class and they're like, the teacher failed me? And you're like, but you didn't do the work. Like, it's one thing if you did all the work, you were doing your best, and no matter what happens, you kept
Like,
like, then
first of all, you
we
should have
gotta
been a
talk
grown
to the
magician's
teacher.
business to
But
begin with.
like,
Woo.
to begin with.
Second of all,
And
this is not on Amari.
none of this is on Amari. Amari was like, I'm just trying to get my brother to wake up. Like, I don't understand.
Amari is like, I just came here to find Quentin. I found out that I was a magician along the way, and then I found out all the crap that y'all put on magicians on top of me finding out I was a magician. So honestly, she stepped in and was like, "Oh, here I am." Well, look, this is also something I have to do, which is like they really like that's how much I'm just like Cosmo has to seriously really be
Oh yeah.
a crappy person, because like there's no way that you know how behind the curve she is, and you like take on this fake on quote unquote fake mentor role with her as a magician and just don't even try to help her. Like, you don't even try to like give her any clues. You don't even throw her a book. Like, that would be like, at least Maria threw her a book. Freaking Dylan threw her a book. What's happening? Like, what is Cosmo even doing?
Speaking of books, so Amari is sitting there stuck with her shadows, and just feels defeated, feels like Dylan is too strong. But one of the books that she saved by like dousing out with her jacket or something comes up to her and sets her free by squeezing the ring, and it takes them both back to the chief's office. And Amari hugs the book while crying because she's going to lose the great game and Dylan will get the crown and it will all be her fault.
And I think it's also like yes, Amari is scared of Dylan, and rightfully so, but she's also like he also represents a fear of failure to her, because of like all the things that she's failed with, like with him, like being his teammate, being like him like becoming the person he is, and she not having anything to do with him like becoming better or whatever. Like, there's like, and then just general failure of her being a magician at the level that he's a magician. So I feel like he represents, yes, he's like, she's scared of him, but he also represents to her a deeper ingrained fear of like failing. Like,
well, I think that there's also this idea too of like the only way to win is to go foul magic, and she doesn't have it in her. And like, could she, like, at what point is it even worth winning? You know what I mean? Like, if the only way I can win is to go the lengths that Dylan is going and play the game that Dylan's playing, like, I'm not gonna have it in me to steal someone's magic. Like, she's not even trying to steal Dylan's magic to, like, you know, like she said, I'm not gonna steal his magic. And we're like, girl, don't make promises you can't keep. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta save yourself. She kind of already knows that, like, if it comes between like her having to like steal his magic or murder someone, she's just not going to be able to do that. So I think there's also that kind of defeat of like, it's starting to feel like there's no way to win this game without being a bad guy. No way to lead the magicians as a good magician.
Yeah.
But I also think I see that, but I also feel like she's like, even if there's a fair way to do it, she's not up to par to do it the fair way.
She's not strong enough, or
doesn't have that
experience and skill. Yeah.
So into chapter 24, the book deposited the ring in the deposited her where Harlow was last talking to her. I just also want to note that the book is super cute, and I love how the book interacts with her. So when Amari is in the office, she just hears frantic voices from the hallway, and it's Chief Crow and Harlow talking. And it sounds like Chief Crow just got there. And when they open the door, Amari's just sitting there in the chair, and Chief Crow is like relieved and is like, "Oh, you did all that blustering, and Peter's never even left the room." And so Harlow, being humiliated by a 13-year-old for the second time today within like an hour, is furious, and she pulls up Amari's jacket sleeves looking for a transporter. There's not one. And she's like, "Where did you go? How did you get out of here?" And Amari's like, "I'm not allowed to have a transporter, so it definitely wasn't that." and like maybe you should just look better. And Harlow is like insulted, but is like, you know what? Whatever. I thought you were like me, an outsider trying to prove herself. You could be a shining example of the prime minister's generosity and compassion, a model for others to follow. And then Chief Crow is like, cut that out. Give it a break. There's no cameras in here. You don't have to do all this like narrative building. Like we're not here to be your like
Also, like,
audience
what
right
is
now.
your trauma that you're
And
like, I thought you were
Right,
like
like,
me, and therefore this is the way I'm gonna treat you.
right.
So many questions there.
But also the fact that like it, like for me it was so rich that like Harlow's like like explanation for where what happened to Amari while she like was gone was that like, oh, there was clearly teleportation. But I'm like, did she even try dispelling? Like she can't. She's not a magician, so she can't dispel the room. But like, what if Amari was invisible the whole time, just watching you, cackling? Like, how would you not like? There's so many other explanations for what could have happened to Amari, but she naturally just assumed Amari teleported. And I'm like, how would she know that if she actually did or not? So that was kind of like initially I was thinking, because we didn't know her ability. And the first time I read this through, I was like, is
I
she
wondered
secretly a
that
magician?
throughout
And does she
too.
secretly know what's happening?
Yeah.
So yeah, so then Harlow responds back to Chief Crow, like rebuking her by saying, quiet. It just so happens that I spoke with the Prime Minister while you were gone, and he's decided to see this oversee this matter personally. And then she taps on her phone and stands back, and a ghostly figure appears on the screen at the back of the office. And this is the first time that Amari sees Bane. But it makes her, it's not the first time she sees him, it's the first time she's interacted with him, and it makes her queasy nonetheless, because he flickers and fades and he goes blurry every few seconds, and it sounds like a bit like of a black and white glitchy like 80s Roger Rabbit like style villain kind of thing, where he's kind of like just like flickering in and out, kind of like that, like not like I'm just like the image work I'm seeing is like of that era of like the way that colors on the screen or whatever. And first thing that Bane says is, have a good look at the horrific consequences of magician craft. So like every time he gets a moment to just like he's also all about himself. And he's like, look upon me and see what your kind has wrought. And it's like, sir, she's 13. Did she do this to you? No. Did her family do this to you? No. It's not her people's.
It's also just like,
what are we doing?
Therapy, my dude. Like, obviously you got some stuff going on, and like, you're old as dust. It's called the Ancient War, that you were turned into a wraith. He talks about seeing his body decay and his wife losing his family and whatever. It's like, I understand that you're going to have some lasting trauma that's not going to like go away. I understand that it's always going to be a sore spot for you, but like, the first thing you say when seeing a child is, look at what you've done. Like,
yeah. I think it's funny though, because I don't like, it's not, I don't say I think it's funny. I think it's like we get a better understanding of what's going on, because he says, and when you're talking about him, his like decaying and stuff like that, he talks about how the only way that he's able to like it continues to exist is that he is able to remember memories, like having a wife who fed him meals that he enjoyed, but he doesn't actually have any memory of those emotions that he had that were related to having love or enjoying the meal, like actually what it felt to enjoy the meal. He only can hold on to hate, to anger. That's the only emotion that he continues to hold on. So like therapy would not work on him, because he simply cannot feel any other emotion but anger. That's the only thing he can feel. So for me, I'm like, that is like Amari is rightfully like sympathetic and empathetic, and it's like, oh, I can't even imagine. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. And he's just like dismissive of it all, because again, the anger is talking. And it really is sad to have like the only like thing you're able to live like immortally, but the only emotion you can feel the whole time is anger. Like that is very devastating for a fate for someone.
I don't know. I didn't read it as like that's the only thing he could feel, but it's the only thing he like allows himself to feel. Which
he said it like it was the only thing he could. Like, and maybe that's in his head, but he's saying that the only thing he can feel is anger. That's the only thing he can hold on to. He can remember things, he can recall them, but he can't feel the emotions that came along with those like loving memories.
And I just, oh boy.
Yeah, he says it's the only thing that's allowed to remain, which is like, wow, okay, that is really sad. So for me, And this is self-awareness. I was like, why would someone who can only feel anger think that they are eligible to hold a powerful position? Like they like remember like, but where people say that like a woman shouldn't hold office because they're too emotional because they have like periods or whatever. And it's like, if the only emotion you can hold in your body is anger, then like how does that qualify you for any position of power? Ever?
Well, apparently, because the man got into his position of power a literal millennia ago and has yet to give it up.
It is disgusting. Like a self-awareness would be like, oh, I should not be here. I only can respond in anger to things. So anything that I do as I gain more power will be done in anger. So I will be misusing this power in the worst way every time I gain more power. It's like, please don't. And like how is he allowed? But yes, this world is a mess. So once I got there, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start counting out the ways that Bane should not hold power and like why that is. So Amari describes him as he's talking to her and like the tone that he's using with her as being very similar to Dylan's, which is like his voice sounds like nothing and rage. And it's like if you are a teenage girl compares you to sounding like a teenage boy during their like discomforted, awful, angry youth phase, then perhaps you, sir, who again, like you're saying, is a millennia old, perhaps you shouldn't be in a place of power if you react like an angry emo boy to things. Maybe not. Also, whenever he's talking to Amari about like the situation, well, you're only allowed to do this because we needed good press, because your heroics had convinced so many that you are the exception about magicians, and you are in fact the like model of a good magician. So I couldn't kick you out without taking a public relations hit at the time, and I cannot afford the negative press. Like that is like, yes, a lot of, and this is that's why a lot of people should not be in power, to be honest. A lot of people do stuff based on their approval scores and like how they're polling, and like, oh well, like, well, how much can PR write off this bad thing that I did or something that I am close to did and get away with it. So like that's how I will monitor what policy I can and cannot enact. And I'm like, that's another sign that this man should not be in power, because that's how he governs, quote unquote governs. He also assumes that Amari and Maria are like him and actually play by their own rules instead of what the rules laid out by the world are, because but it's like you're seeing yourself, you're reflecting, like you're projecting yourself onto them, because yes, while magicians like technically don't move in the world the same way everyone else does because they have different power sets, like you're the one who chose to hold on to power for millennia, to use a time freeze of the actual leader of this world to your advantage for you to do what you want to do. So you're the one who is actually playing by your own rules, not Maria and Amari. And again, especially Harlow and how she's taken power on, and she's not even like she was not even in a position of power prior to Bane being in power. So that's also a thing. He also isn't allowing a classification system to ostracize an already alienated Amari, because they take away her moon badge, and they take away her moonstone badge, and they take away her elite badge. The elite badge is whatever, she just got it, and that's like a privilege thing. But the moon badge she earned through her own abilities and like merit. So there's no reason why that should be gone. And they replace it with a dangerous thing. And it's like any world history, where there's classification systems of people and they have to wear it outside of their bodies, that should clue you in to you're being like a fascist. And he does not care. This is just all being implemented under his power. He's also smug at Amari's humiliation as it's all happening, and he's dismissive of any cruelty that he does. Like, he's very aware of the cruelty that was visited upon him. He does not care about any cruelties that he doles out to other people, especially if they're magicians or unwanted, because they are by definition unwanted. And so he feels like they're getting exactly what they deserve. And all these things, I'm like, this man should not be holding a position of power in anybody's system of any kind.
Accurate.
Yeah, but again, how does this system work? Like, I just, every time Bane is mentioned, or like, I guess now even Merlin for that matter, now I'm just like, how does this work? How are you, who let you be in charge? And do the people in which you're in charge of know, like, the depths of your depravity? Obviously not, but.
Well, he does say that from now on, she's to be seen and not heard. So we don't even, like, will Harlow be putting her in any more promotional materials? Probably not. So, like, who's documenting how he's having her treated, you know?
Yeah.
I wonder if she used to do an erg post, like, what would happen? I don't know. They probably just take it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, yeah, she's not, I mean, be seen, not heard. They already were able to take away her ability to be on erg or on the other net. So I'm sure they're going to lock all that stuff down anyway. They're going to make, you know, like, Harlow's going to do some PR statement about, like, taking away her Moonstone badge, and I don't know about taking away her Moonstone badge, but at least taking away her elite status or whatever to start to, like, mess with Amari's reputation. But I don't know. Also, like, Chief Crow can't say anything. Amari's like, what can she do? But it's like, it feels to me like Chief Crow should be like, badges are given by the department, not by the Magical Congress.
The elite
one
one,
take
sure.
that, whatever.
You know what I'm saying? Like, elite one,
Harlow gave it,
whatever.
It's a club. I don't know, but
I mean, I think their excuse though is that the storm, right? So like they're marking her as dangerous because she had the outburst and didn't know how to control it. That's like,
but it doesn't take away the Moonstone though. Like, she's able to
I
create
mean,
the storm
yeah,
because she's
as
a
is in
Moonstone
terms
level
of like the story that
magician.
they're going to spin, especially because there were reporters there already. It's like we've seen the danger that she can cause other students, blah 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 blah. Until we know what's going on, we need her distanced so that nobody else gets hurt.
Trash.
Big trash.
Of the highest degree. So speaking of rain and storms, Amari literally makes it rain on Harlow. But it's basically like, it feels like Harlow just getting like a physical manifestation of her own aura at the moment. So who's to say if Amari made it rain on Harlow, if it just like happened to be the moment where Harlow's cloudy, gloomy burdens of her aura just came to manifest themselves, you know? Like, I would argue that if I were Chief Crow. Basically the setup, especially with the like categorization of her being like having this dangerous badge, now has Amari where she is not allowed to interact with anyone other than those that she can avoid, which, like, what does that even mean? And if even whenever it's pointed out that it makes it unable for her to do her work, they're like, whatever. Because Harlow is distracted by the cloud that is on like over her, Chief Harlow is able to like shoo Amari out of the door, and Amari takes the book that traveled with her to where she goes next, which is a study room that she used with Elsie, not the elite one. She can't have access to that anymore, but the one they used to use. And Amari and her talk about like catching up about like what Amari's been through, and how unfair and unjust it is to have her Moonstone badge removed. And when Amari starts thinking about like how she feels grateful to have Elsie as a friend there with her now, she has no idea how she'll like deal with things when Elsie's gone to London. Her aura turns blue. Elsie notes it. Amari's like, it's nothing. And it's so sad because like what actually could Amari and Elsie say or do in this moment that would help them like later? Like, they're gonna be grieving the change in their friendship when Elsie moves away, no matter what. So like, there's nothing that they can do to really change that in a moment. So I get why Amari's not trying to like make it part of a conversation. Even on top of like the negative emotions of like guilt around like holding this feeling against Elsie at the time. But Amari is like, well, Elsie's like, they're trying to set you apart to make things like they were last summer, but you can't let them get to you. And Amari is like, I know, I told them I won't quit. But it did feel nice getting to wear the Elites badge and have people just automatically be nice to me. And now it's just like I'm right back where I started. I know I can handle it, but it doesn't mean that I'm looking forward to being a camp outcast again.
So sad.
And before the recording, Robyn was like, "This is just so sad." I'm like, "But like, she's been an outcast this whole time. Like people, like there was a privilege."
She felt like an outcast in a different way. Like she felt kind of almost set apart because she was doing good, as opposed to being ostracized.
And it depended on who she was around, right? So I think she's definitely an outcast in her training classes with the other like supernatural investigations folks. But like in the lunchroom and stuff this year, it's just been whatever. Like she's been able to build relationships with people who are in other groups, who are like in other programs, because she's not.
There were people who like wanted her to join their club, you know, like.
Yeah. But that was the Elite badge, I guess. Yeah, she's attributing to the Elite badge.
And also, I'm sorry, part of her's got to be missing the perk of that library room with the cookies.
I just want to know what I'm like. If that was just a library perk, what other perks are there in this building that are like hidden rooms?
Well, the elevator would be the one I missed. He even talks about having to take the raggedy one. I'd be like,
we have fallen, but we have not fallen that far. It is not rock
being
bottom.
Able to take the elite one. I can't do it.
Stand up. Can't do it.
And cut the line too, because there was a big old line that day, and they were like, come on. Harlow was so wrong for that, but Harlow knows she's wrong. She don't care. Well, no, Harlow doesn't know she's wrong. She thinks she's right, so it doesn't matter. So, they kind of like chill. They're still in the room, and they're like talking about like they kind of like Elsie has to go on a trip to visit the London Bureau during the weekend, and she offers to stay if Amari needs her to, and Amari can tell that she actually means it, but she's like, "No, you should go have fun. I'll be okay because I have Dylan." And Elsie's like, "Are you sure y'all can hang out because of your new designation?" And Amari's just like, "We'll figure it out." And Elsie notices the book that she brought back, and then realizes that Amari can't talk about the origin of the book because it's bound to her vow of secrecy. So she's like, "Okay, well, can we just like check it out?" So they're doing what you're supposed to do in a library, which is check out a book that they're interested in. And I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, but apparently during the summer, Amari had like a Spanish homework assignment, or during winter break, she had a Spanish homework assignment, and she did not do it in time. So she just used a translator spell to be able to learn how to do that assignment. And she's been able to use it since then. So that's how she translated her way through the Library of Alexandria. And this book is also in a different language. They don't say which one it is. And she's able to translate it using the spell. And finds out that the book is a collection of looking glasses. And the vibe of this book is very much like Mirror of Erised, talking about that wizard boy, and also Ghost of Christmas Past and Present and Future kind of vibes. Because as you turn each page, there's different elements to the book. So the first mirror kind of page says it'll show you where you've been. And it shows a reflection of, though both Amari and Elsie can see different things, sometimes they see the same thing. And the first thing they do is see like them huddled over the sneak candle and listening to the radio that Elsie built from scratch. So that's their first like hangout in their dorm room. And then they see Where You'll Be, and it's an image of both of them being held up by Lara, who is pointing a stun stick at both her and Elsie, and their hands are up. And Amari's like, this is again, Mari, be more distrustful. She's like, maybe we're practicing? And it's like, please, like, I see that you're trying to be hopeful, but it's not great for that. And then Elsie frowns, and they keep going. And the next page is what you most want to see. And so this time, Amari sees Quentin sitting up in a hospital, blinking his eyes open and smiling at her. And that makes her heart full. And then Elsie sees herself as a full dragon, and she says it's incredible and in a hushed voice. And they kind of like give each other like support, like it's gonna happen, that's gonna happen for you. And then Elsie begs for one more page, and they get what you most need to see. And this time, they both see themselves opening the fortune cookies that Elsie passed out to everyone earlier this book. And Amari's reminded that her fortune was beware of unseen dangers. But again, how is the thing they most need to see a thing that they still have yet to understand? Like, that is how is that actually helpful? Like, if this is what you most need to see, but you don't know what it means.
I think it's like, stop not paying attention to that and try to figure out what it
It's
means.
just like you're losing focus. Like you planning heists and this and that, and what you need to do is think some more.
Is look
Right.
at State with his fortune cookie.
But also, like, for Amari, like, watch out for unseen dangers. Put the ring on in the bowl.
No further questions at that moment. Like, serious, like, okay. Anyways. And then Elsie also notes about, like, because again, the last thing they saw before that was, again, what they most want to see, which is Quentin waking up and Elsie as a dragon. And so Elsie's fortune was her hard work paying off. So I wonder if that's interrelated with what they most want to see in a way as well. They kind of like pull it together, grab their stuff before they leave the study room, trying to get back to their like respective posts as their like lunch break is over. Actually, Elsie may have skipped class, but they are stopped cold at the sight of Laura and Director Van Helsing, who come out of another study room, which again is interesting because like he has a whole office, so study room is interesting. And they see Van Helsing lean over to whisper something in Laura's ear, and she nods, and they're not sure what like her facial response is because they can't see her face. And Elsie raises an eyebrow and asks maybe Laura's just making up with her dad to get us a transporter. And Amari's like, that's gotta be it. But then she still can't get the picture of Laura aiming her sunstick at the both of them out of her head, which is like, are you finally bracing yourself for the double cross? Because the Van Helsings can't be trusted. Like, are you finally getting to a place that perhaps I should distrust people more? I don't know. But perhaps Amari is getting there somewhat.
I love that we're rooting for the corruption of this baby's pure heart. You're like, harden up.
But it's the only way she can protect her heart. Like you can protect your heart better when you're like you're better aware of like how people will play, like are using you or are geared up to use you.
But still. It's still. Okay. Who's your real MVP?
I said Amari, but also the books in the library, specifically the books that helped Amari get out. So yeah, shout out to the Looking Glass book and to just all of them for being very, very cool.
I just changed my answer because I said Amari first, but I didn't want to because of the ring. And now I don't have to. The books in the library for getting Amari out of the library, for helping her get into a position where she got the ring, because she did get the ring.
That's true.
And also the book hinted told her that was where she needed to go to get the ring. Because she asked the book, like, she was like, can I find the ring in that room? And they were like, yeah, you can find the ring.
So the books. It's not their fault she couldn't
with the books.
Make it work.
I'm with the books. I really am. But I was like, I'm going to give it to Amari because I'm just accepting of her misjudgment of people because she has too much trust for people. And on that, like, acceptance of who she is, I'm also giving it up to her for, like, keeping her head when all these things are being thrown at her. She's getting through. So she just fell out of the sky in class, gets zipped into a room, and then is zipped back into the Great Game, and then is zipped back to there to be stripped of all of her, like, all the things that
she hasn't slept in 2 days
and put back in a place of ostracization. She hasn't slept in 2 days. She could be using all of this misshapen emotion to honestly be lashing out at people and just like, like Bane would deserve it, Harlow would deserve it, even if it was like misplaced a bit or whatever, because she's just complex emotions around Elsie leaving. Like she might even just like, you know, like that's a place that people tend to do, like where they feel safe, they'll like lash out at the person they feel safe with sometimes. She could possibly have done that with Elsie, but she didn't. She's just been kind of like level-headed even despite all the things that have been like against her. So I'm like, she's doing her best, and I'm so sad her journey has to include all this effery, but like I don't like it shouldn't be the case, but she is a better person for not allowing it to change her to be just as effed up as them. But she does need to incorporate more distrust and more speed and picking up what's being put down
be
in
quicker.
a moment.
Because Shauna made Amari her MVP as well. Who did you bench?
I benched Dylan and Harlow. And I am also going to add the juvenile incarceration system because I truly think Dylan is a real good example of why that shit just does not work. You have only made this child 15 times worse. But yeah, Dylan for that speech at the end and trying to leave Amari to decompose, and Harlow for all of the things that Harlow does.
Like there's a special kind of heinousness to leaving someone to starve to death. It's like the slowest. Like I kind of understand too, like he's very angry with his misplaced anger, but angry with Amari for leaving him alone in the sightless depths. And so this is his like retribution in a way. And I feel like if he hadn't have given that big speech and worked himself up, he might not have decided that this was the way to go. But I think in him explaining how he got the power of shadows and it took him back to the sightless depths, like you said, the juvenile justice system does not work and has made this boy worse. He was like, this is what you deserve. But there's something just so heinous about having that intention to leave someone to starve to death and turn into and leave for so long that you will not come back until they are a pile of bones. I also benched Dylan for that and Harlow for the reasons that you mentioned. I just feel like Bane, because I know is like a Harlow puppet, he's still awful in his own right. But I just think that all roads lead back to Harlow as the big bad of this book, and then Dylan just, I mean, who knows? Like,
I personally am surprised that you're not holding Dylan accountable for
and killing the books, disgracing the library,
his desecration of.
I didn't forget because I was so upset by it, but I think just like him ending on like, I'll come back for your
murder over book desecration. You do have a line, but it's a very
feel like
thin
book
line.
Desecration isn't that its own murder?
It's
especially those books.
People,
they are living. They are actually
people
living.
died. The people who wrote those books are long gone,
and those books are living. They made decisions. They were defending themselves from you throwing freaking fireballs at them. What are they supposed to do? Just sit there and take it and burst into flames?
I really want to see another battle between Dylan and the library, and then like to trip him and force him to like fall into his own fire. Like that would be hilarious.
To start knocking shells down on his ass.
I want the books of the library to get like their retribution for his crimes. Like I think he should be held to his standard. I also benched Dylan and Harlow, like, as I think for Harlow the narcissism is just amazing. Like it's like peak narcissist. And I don't want to be like prescribing that role onto someone, but it's just so like blatant that like it's about her. And I'm like, it can't always just be about you. Like things don't just happen and it's because someone is trying to do something to you. And the fact that you were once a 13-year-old and you can't like even like try to understand like how overwhelming that can be and how like that could lead to things to happen that were outside of your control in the moment. Like, it's just really messed up, and I can't really do with her. Dylan, all of those reasons, him being a serial killer on the rise is really scary. The fact that I honestly overall, yes, I was talking about like Cosmo manipulating him and using him and how he's like, you know, a victim to Cosmo's like machinations. But I also think that like overall, Dylan is moving the same energy of the way that he's been used and putting that on others. Like, he knew that he was like using Amari last year, and he's continuing to use her own personality against her to this day. And I hate that, and I don't like people who are users in that way. And then Bane is the bane of his own existence, and I hope that he takes himself out. Like, I hope that like the whatever fate for Bane ends up like being exactly what he deserves, because at the end of the day, and I could be misreading this, but I don't even think he really wants to be here. I think part of the pain of him being who he is that he doesn't even want to be immortal.
He's taking this out on everyone. If I gotta go through this,
yeah,
y'all all gotta feel it too.
He outlived all the people that he loved. He outlived the love itself because he can't even feel the love anymore. So I think this is all just trying to just being destructionist and trying to take everything, all the walls down with you as you go. And I hate that as a personality trait. And I hope that the walls do go down, but they're walls of his own making, and it just takes out very few casualties with them whenever that happens.
Yeah. Deshauna also benched Bane and Harlow. They stink. So, you know, there's that.
Like putrid cabbage.
Like putrid cabbage. I have one more MVP to Junebug. Happy birthday. That's why Bayana's not here. He's 5. That's insane.
I did not think of 5-year-olds as toddlers because I think at the time that people like that idea came up to me was like I was a teenager, and I vividly remember being like, no, like I was 5 when I was 5, I was like a whole big kid, and I'm like, wait a minute, that is very much like a 5-year-old thought process. Like, I'm a big kid now.
I'm a big kid now. I do think 5 is like the end of that toddler. Like, that's when they're like, all right, you're a kid now, but
yeah. It's so cute that he's like, you're in that like in between, like you're kind of technically toddler until you hit a certain part, and then you're definitely a full child. And I just think it's adorable. That age is just adorable.
He's a baby. I don't know. He's just so cute. So he's my MVP, even though he probably can't listen to this. I might just cut this and send it to him. This one spot. But thank you guys for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 25 through 27 of Amari and the Great Game. And make sure to tell us who you have MVP'd and benched. You can use the forum. You can use Twitter. You can use Instagram, whatever. Just like give us your votes, man.
Also remember that Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. and follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create. By also checking out our Black Nerds Create website or checking us out at Black Nerds Create on Instagram, you can find the information to follow DJ and all the things that DJ is up to. And thanks again to DJ, who had to bounce really quickly, for joining us today.
Yeah. Bye, guys.